As parents, we get so excited to see our kiddos go through their motor milestones. We're cheering, we're clapping, we're telling everybody about it. But when they first sit up, when they roll over, when they crawl, when they furniture cruise, when they walk, and especially when they start to talk, is there anything cuter? Is there anything more exciting when they start to say mama, dada? And it's so exciting and it brings us so much enthusiasm and excitement as parents to see those next milestones for your child being achieved. But in turn, it brings so much nervousness, anxiousness, and worry when your child is speech delayed, when they're struggling with their milestones, specifically with speech, verbalization, and communication. It's a big concern for parents, and rightfully so, because communication is everything. And so when they get into interacting with peers, and especially we start to already think downstream to preschool and communicating with others, we know that addressing these speech delays is a very important thing to do. Perhaps you've already have early intervention and speech therapy on your team. But one thing we will tell you in this video that no one else is talking about, and it'll surprise you to learn that birth intervention like forceps, vacuum extraction, C-section, induction, and other common infant and toddler issues like torticollis, plagiocephaly, acid reflux, colic, chronic ear infections are very strongly correlated and are root cause triggers of speech delay. We'll get into the science of how speech works in a very simple 3-step process with this video, and you'll see how stress on the nervous system, because the nerves control muscles and the muscles end up making speech. But there's so much neurological communication and neurological coordination and connection that needs to happen to make speech happen. So if you have a child who is struggling with speech delays, and if you're in speech therapy and you're seeing some progress, but you're looking for more, or especially if your child is plateaued or stuck and not quite seeing progress in speech therapy, well, then that reveals even more so this root cause of speech delays. In this conversation we're going to have here is being very important for your family, right? So getting right to the main point of this video, birth interventions are a big deal when it comes to speech delays, and honestly, all other sorts of neurosensory, neurodevelopmental problems in kids that no one on the medical side of the fence is talking about. So when we think about this, it's actually really simple. Forceps, vacuum extraction, C-section, induction, manual assistance, or when a child is coming what they kind of call or nickname sunny side up, coming with a different presentation as their head and their neck come through the birth canal or via the surgery with C-section. The head and the neck is the most sensitive area for an infant. They cannot move it, they cannot control it, they cannot protect it yet themselves. So those nerves and the muscles and joints that are in the brainstem, the cervicals, and that area are very delicate and they're very easily injured at birth, or what is called subluxated. Now, subluxation is when there is neuromuscular dysfunction. There's misalignment, there's fixation, and then there's tension. And what happens is speech formation. So the expression of words is dependent upon two things first. You see, speech is a 3-step process. Number one, it's about the perception or the input of auditory information. Now, step one is really this sensory auditory via that input into the system that is controlled by nerves. The nerves need to pick up the frequencies and then get the muscles to connect in that way. So step one of speech is actually the input, and it's entirely neurological dependent. And step two of speech is then the brain, and the brainstem needs to make sense of what's coming into it. And it's called integration, processing, organization, coordination. It goes by, in step two, it goes by a lot of different words, but that is entirely a neurological function as well. And then step three, once the nervous system has made its decision and it's processing, then it sends the signals out through the nerves, first to, the muscles of the jaw, the tongue, the vocal cords, and so forth. And so a lot of times, pretty much all the time, the medical world and even, amazing rock star speech therapists who understand the nerves that we're going to talk about, the vagus nerve in a second, they know all about that as well. But we've kind of oversimplified speech delays and we've said it's a muscular problem. It's a motor problem. Well, the motor tone coordination, formation, and execution of speech is entirely dependent upon neurological tone, coordination, and communication first. This three-step process of input, organization, and output is completely governed by the nervous system. And so birth trauma, birth interventions get into that area, that very delicate, non-protected area, because a baby can't move their head and neck yet. And that is why a child who experiences gross motor or fine motor delays is much more likely to experience speech delays as well, because all of the control of the gross motor function, of the fine motor function, which is speech, is all done right here in the brainstem and the upper neck area. We have nicknamed it air traffic control. And so a lot of times, here's the last thing I want to teach you with this video. There's actually signs of speech delays and this trouble brewing. But because the pediatrician and the conventional medical system does not really evaluate the nervous system, they only look at charts and growth and height and weight and stuff that is honestly really not that important. They miss what's right in front of their eyes with the case history of birth intervention. And they don't know how to examine for what is called neurological dysfunction, what is called subluxation. So they're not looking for it. They're not finding it. But parents, there's another thing you can do, or things that you can look for that are strongly correlated into what we call this perfect storm sequence as well. If your little one was colicky and fussy, had difficulty turning their head on both sides, latching, nursing, swallowing, if they were refluxy, if they were constipated, and then if they especially had torticollis or plagiocephaly and chronic ear infections, those are all signs as well of this upper cervical subluxation and neurological dysfunction, because there is so many important physiological functions, developmental functions for your child that are all governed by that air traffic control of the upper neck, the brainstem, and the cervical area. And so what's really missing in helping children with speech delays is going one layer deeper and evaluating the nervous system, evaluating the tone, the coordination, and literally the communication of how the nervous system, its sensory input, its internal coordination, and the expression and formation. So what happens with subluxation is subluxation can set up shop at any one of these three-step interchanges. Subluxation can interfere with sensory auditory processing. Subluxation can interfere with the brain's coordination, integration, and making sense of the sounds it's hearing and the sounds it's trying to make. And then especially subluxation can set up shop on the way out and interfere with expression. And so to know which one or where your child has it, a lot has to do with the severity. If a child has subluxation and neurological interference on step 1, they're going to struggle the most with speech. But if instead they have subluxation between steps 2 and 3, maybe they're talking, they're communicating, but it's hard to understand. It's not real clear. And so they're working on that output. Well, if we can clean up the neurological communication pathways with neurologically focused chiropractic adjustments, now speech therapy, OT, everything else that your child may be going through will work so much better, because the channels, literally the neurological communication channels, are open. I could teach you about this for hours on end, and this video really simplifies speech delays, but it also connects the dots to something that has happened to 85 to 90% of kiddos who come into our clinic who have speech delays. When we look at their case history, they have some documented birth intervention and birth trauma to the delicate nerves, muscles, joints that are in charge of speech formation, and so many other things as well. So because we are obsessed with root cause, not just symptoms, not just the outputs, but the actual root cause, that's how we know how to look for it. And the final thing I want you to learn more about is not just how all this speech works, where subluxation, vagus nerve dysfunction, these other things come into play. But now in our office, we use this technology called the Insight scans, which can actually help us measure their sensory. They're non-invasive. They're safe and easy. They take 15-minute scans, sometimes even less, to find this subluxation, to find this neurological dysfunction and this interference that could be the root cause of your child's challenges. And so if you feel like you've been doing speech therapy, you've been addressing it from all these other angles, and you're not quite seeing the full complete results you're looking for, or as quick of results as you're looking for, and you just want more information, click the link to read our whole article about speech delays. Because here's the thing, for so many kiddos now, when they come into our office and get adjusted, we can communicate with them. We can talk with them, we can do life, have fun together, because their subluxation is out of the way, so that neurological interference is out of the way, so they can talk back, and they can catch back up with their milestones, including speech, and experience the greatest quality of life, right? So if this video helped you and you want more information, just simply comment speech below, and we'll send you that article, and we'll get you connected to the resources that you need to get your child optimal and functioning incredibly well. So have a blessed day, and we will see you soon.